this computer. Okay, so welcome to the Writing Podcast, guys. So I'm here today with Rosemary Clark, and Rosemary is a life coach. She is also an astro coach. And there was one other profession that was, okay, it sounds weird that I was on your Facebook, but it said that you were also a time to think consultant. So
that's correct.
What is a time to think consultant, first and foremost?
So just to correct you there, I'm also a transition coach, so that's another aspect of it. So a time to think consultant is someone who teaches the time to think process, or facilitates it, or teaches people how to use it. So time to think is a methodology that helps people to think for themselves and teaches people how to listen well enough to allow people to think for themselves. So it's a very beautiful and very respectful process, and I've been doing it now for 12 years, and I still love it, and I still learn something from it every time I do it. So it's really, it's close to my heart.
Yeah, and I did a few questions. I'm gonna approach them in chronological order because I feel like that would help us stay on track. So
Yes.
I wanted to ask firstly, what area of the life coaching aspect, what area of that specifically do you most enjoy practicing in? For example, if it's somebody dealing with a work crisis or a personal crisis, or which part of that do you like to jump in, and which part do you enjoy most?
Caitlin, I'm a very deep person, so I don't like to fiddle around on the surface. I want to go to the deep places. So personal crises interest me a lot, but usually work crises come from home crises or personal crises, or create the same. So it all blends into one another in the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're saying that you kind of, it all ties in with self.
Yes. So life coaching is about your whole life. So dealing with all the things that are going on in your life. And currently at this time of COVID, I'm working a lot with people who are in transition. So losing their jobs, or being retired early, and even losing loved ones. So dealing in that space as well.
Amazing. Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, when I hear life coaching, I think a lot of different people could approach a life coach with a multitude of different problems, but then it kind of comes back around full circle and you realize that, you know, they all tie in together. With every problem has another problem that it's linked to, or every person that's experiencing something that they need help with, there's always going to be other things that are connected with that. So yeah, I completely get what you're saying. I mean, that's something that I hadn't considered before. I thought it was more like they had a specific problem and you would speak about it. I mean, everyone practices, you know, different ways, but a question that ties in with that is, do you notice a specific age range of people that you work with? Is there a very distinct kind of demographic that life coaches tend to work with?
No, the various coaches deal with different age groups. Personally, for me, I find older people tend to gravitate towards me. When I say older, I'm talking about 30, 40s. So I haven't dealt with a lot of children, but yeah, I'd say 30, 40 and upwards, that's the usual. And I think, you know, when people are younger, they don't necessarily feel like they have these problems. Whereas when you get older and you take on more responsibilities in life, then you find you have things you need to deal with in a different way.
Absolutely. And what would you say is the most common pattern that you see amongst people that ask for your services? What would you say is the most common thing that adults are dealing with currently?
Currently, most of it is work issues and trying to earn more money, of course, and relationships. But I think mostly work issues for me. I find people are struggling at the moment. There's not a lot of work around, and they're feeling bad about it, and so it affects their self-esteem. So we're dealing with a lot of those internal messages that aren't being helpful at the moment.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that makes sense. I think that, you know, there are a lot of things that have been amplified by our current situation. And would you say that personally you've seen an influx in people that are struggling during this time, or would you say it's been a straight line?
So there's certainly a lot more people who are struggling. When I say I'm not, when you say, am I seeing them? I'm not seeing them, because people, I think, are very concerned about their finances, and so they're not coming to us coaches typically, waiting to see what happens. But certainly a lot of people that I've spoken to and seen are struggling. And I think part of the problem is that our societies don't allow us to be really real. So people can't own up to the fact that actually I'm not doing well. People don't want to hear that because it triggers for them the fact that they're not doing well. And there seems to be some kind of stigma attached to that, although I can't think why. So, so a lot of people aren't coming that need to come, and my door's open.
Yeah, and what would you say to those people that are holding themselves back from, you know, from going to you, somebody that can help them? What would you say to those people?
Well, one would recommend that they have someone to talk about their issue with, because when we don't talk about our issues, it tends to lead to possibly even mental health down the line, depression, and as you see, the suicide rates have gone up. And so we need to be able to talk to someone freely and openly without judgment, and that helps a huge amount, just to talk.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, talking is, I think, you know, to an extent, I think talking personally has definitely helped alleviate a lot of my problems that I face. I mean, it's crazy that you think, when you kind of look at it face on, you think, how could talking fix my problems? But then if you look at it on a psychological level, it's just like a weight lifted off your shoulders. And I think that personally, that's what helped me a lot, I think, especially with you know, the current situation. I have a lot of friends that are also coaches, and the amazing thing about being a coach is that we can kind of give our services for free in exchange for their services, which I think is great. So they've been helping me a lot with just like speaking. And my friend's a well-being coach, so she knows a lot of techniques that can help. She's put me in her meditation group, 30 days of meditation, which is just amazing. So I'm definitely an advocate for the power of speaking, and I think it's so helpful.
And the power of hearing yourself speak.
Absolutely.
And nobody needs to fix it. You just need to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, and reflect on.
Yes.
You don't realize what's going on until you actually speak about it, and then you can reflect with yourself as well. And that's one of the most important things, as well as having someone else give you their input. Just actually talking to yourself. And I think I'm really interested in finding out more about you being an astro coach, because there isn't a lot of stuff on Google, surprisingly. When you type in life coach versus astro coach, there's a lot of difference in like how much information is available. So what, by your definition, what is an astro coach?
So before I was a coach, in fact, about 30 years ago, I learned the art of astrology. So when I talk about being an astro coach, it's taking the information, the astrology chart gives you to be able to coach the client to be the best person they can be. So a lot of that is about self-acceptance, because some people are just not designed for the business world, for example. And to be able to support them being exactly who they are instead of trying to force them into a mold is what the astro coaching is all about.
Okay, yeah,
So helping them to find their way in the world, being the person that they are.
yeah, and my whole family is, they love astrology and they like to apply it to, I mean, my mum, for example, she applies a lot of horoscopes to what she does to help her not change the way she is, but help her embrace the things that she feels and help her like feel the way that she should be feeling. Because I feel like specifically horoscopes, for example, I mean, I don't know too much about coaching, but I know a lot about horoscopes, and I know that when I read a horoscope, it gives me that sense of closure and it gives me that sense of direction in a way. And I feel that astro coaching is such a great way of, integrating astrology with guiding your life in a healthy direction. So do you when you guide your clients and when you help your clients with astro coaching, do you find that includes, so let me rephrase that, what do you integrate when you coach someone with astrology? Is it their physical appearance? Is it their mental health? Is it their routines in their life? Or is it a combination of everything that comes together?
It's a combination of everything, and usually we address what the thing is that the client is most concerned about. So usually it's a way of being in the world that the client is concerned about. So we work towards making that place their own place, so that they don't feel that they don't fit in, or that they're alien, or oh, I'm an artist, I'm never going to make any money. Well, if you believe that, then you never will make any money. So how can we change that mindset? How can we look at the chart and draw on the strengths that are there to help you take this career and run with it?
Yeah, that, I think especially with a career choice, I think it's because a lot of our lives are oriented around making money, having a job, pursuing a career. But for a lot of people, it seems that they're often forced into a career path, or they're forced into the traditional education industry, and that doesn't include what they want to do. And I feel that with astro coaching, that will help people actually realize that there is no mold for pursuing a passion. Everybody's passion is going to be different in some way or another, and I think it's a great way to alleviate another form of stress, because I feel like a lot of people are stressed by their career and their career path that they follow, because they're doing a job that they don't enjoy, they feel like they're trapped. That's going to lead to a lot of pent up stress in their head. And I think if they were to address the problem earlier on in their life with an astro coach or with a life coach, that would make it more smooth sailing than if they were to struggle with that career that they didn't enjoy. Do you think a lot of people struggle with the same thing with their career? Do you think it's a lot of people tend to be stressing over being in the wrong industry or in the wrong job?
I think there are a lot of people who are in the wrong job. So many people go into a business because they don't know what else to do, or their father's in the business, so they feel they need to take over that business and continue it, or they, oh, the family's been poor all my life, I've got to go and make money, so I'm going to become a lawyer. The fact that I hate it doesn't seem to come into the picture.
Yeah.
So the wonderful thing about astrology is, when it's properly done, is that everybody is an absolutely unique individual. And that if you can find the unique place for that person in the world, it makes such a difference. And that's what I try to do.
Yeah, I think it's so vital to feel like you have a place, because a lot of people that feel stressed and they feel like they're unwanted, that's because they're not in a place where they fit. It's because they're trying to squeeze themselves into a place where a lot of other people are, like with a lawyer, like you said, or with a job that's high paying, because people think, you know, money equals happiness necessarily, but even if the job's high paying, they're not going to be happy with it. So I think that's such an important philosophy, that we need to find a unique place for a unique person that only they can fit into, and that inherently just gives you a sense of belonging and value. And I think in order to live a good life, the goal isn't to be happy, the goal is to find a purpose and to find a path. Do you back, for example, I'm using paraphrasing by a clinical psychologist. He's called Jordan Peterson, and he is, I don't know if you've heard of him, he's Canadian. He's an incredible clinical psychologist, and his ethos is that you should not live to be happy necessarily. You should just live to live and to have a purpose, and you should embrace the sadness as well as the happiness. Do you push a similar ethos to that, or do you have perhaps a different angle? For example, do you have one philosophy that you like to stick by and to tell your clients when they come to you?
So I think if one lives on purpose or towards one's purpose, one is happy, because there's a sense of being in the right place at the right time. And I think that's what we all strive for as human beings. And we want to feel useful, and we want to feel that we're contributing. And happiness is just a state of mind. It's it's, you know, we can be happy on a Friday night drinking tequila, but that doesn't mean much, does it?
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, to find your purpose is the ultimate happiness, and to serve that purpose.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it. And I think the overriding or overarching energy of life and living is love. And we need to tap into that and find that place in ourselves. So, you know, love created everything. Love is the creator of everything. And you can argue that, but that's how I feel about it. And I think if what we do comes from a place of love, I love my work, we will do good work. We will find our happiness.
Yeah, and I think you would be very content when you've reached that realization. I mean, like a little while ago, I'd say I shifted from working towards something that I didn't want to, and then I shifted that towards embracing what I loved with a purpose, and that kind of lifted everything off my shoulders, and it made me realize that you don't have to go down a specific path. You just need to be content most of the time. You need to have a bit of upset in there, you need to have happiness, you need to have a little bit of stress, but I think that all of those together are way more helpful than pursuing a job that doesn't make you happy. I think rather than pursuing only happiness, that's not a very healthy way to look at it, because that's not the only emotion that human beings experience. You know, it's a mixture of everything. So
Of everything.
Yeah, and I absolutely love what you said. I think that really does encompass what I and lots of other people see when we think of living a meaningful life. You know, not necessarily always being happy, but living with a purpose, and that will make us happy in the long run. So I wanted to ask you what actually led you to pursue a life of coaching and helping others, and you know, using your mind to help other people in their lives. What pushed you down that route?
So I've had a few careers in my life, all of which I loved, but it wasn't fulfilling enough for me. So, and I was one of those people who couldn't find my place in the world. So, excuse me, I spent about 7 years in a spiritual community, and I loved that as well. But then I also realized that I didn't want to spend my life there. I wanted to come out and make a contribution in the world. And what seemed like the most useful thing I could do would be to study something that would help me to help other people. So that's when I studied life coaching. And then when I came out of the community, I started on that course straight away. And I must say, there's something about it that has made me very happy. It has its ups and downs. And obviously, we deal with some very sad situations. And, you know, you can say, well, how can that make you happy? Well, it does, because if I can help somebody in a sad situation, it's very fulfilling for me, and that makes me happy. So I finally think I've found my purpose in life, and I love what I do. So the fact that I love what I do would make it very hard for me to give it up to do something I didn't want to do, just for the sake of making money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that leads really smoothly into the next question, which is, what do you find to be the most rewarding thing about life coaching?
I would say working with people, hearing their stories, hearing their hearts, and being able to walk whatever journey they're walking with them.
Yeah.
Not because I have all the answers, but together we find the answers. And that that is very rewarding for me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that personally, as a writing coach, I agree on every level, and I think that's the amazing thing about kind of coaching in general, because we get to work with individuals that always have a unique story. There are no two people that have the exact same situation, and I think that's so refreshing and that's so rewarding, because it gives you that freshness to your job. Like, if you were to work in, I mean, I worked in Starbucks, it was the same every single day, and I couldn't do it. I did it for about 2 or 3 months, and it ground my brain down, and I couldn't do the same
Sure.
thing. But then once I made that shift and I had video chats with different people every single day, working with them on their projects, it was like, wow, I'm making friends and I'm communicating with other people, and it's different every single day. And I think that that's just
Awesome.
the same as you, and it's the same as other life coaches and other coaches in general. It just is so rewarding to work with other people rather than
Yeah.
working under somebody who tells you what to do, and then you have a fixed salary and it isn't enough, and then it makes you stressed because all of that's whirling around in your head. But I think that what you find rewarding is what brings all coaches together. It's like that universal appreciation for just communicating with other
Yes,
people.
I
um,
agree. Mm.
I I wanted to ask, what advice would you give to young people who want to pursue any creative project, but they don't necessarily have the energy or the time or the money, what would you advise them to do as their starting step into that project that they would want to embark upon?
So the first thing is to decide exactly what it is you want. What is it? Are you going to build a building? Are you going to write a book? Are you going to make a painting? Or what is your intention? And then to make very small steps towards it and work on at least something every day or every other day, so that you start moving in that direction. And also, I think what's important is to realize that the project will take on a life of its own. And you might find that halfway through the project, it wants to change course.
Okay,
So
do
don't be,
or a different version of the same project? How do you mean a different turn?
so it might, you might be, say you're writing a book and you have a particular thing you want to write about, but then halfway down the line, you realize that that's maybe for another book. This book is going in another direction and I need to take it there. So to be open, excuse me, open to that. Because most often we think, well, now I've set my heart on that, now I have to go for that. Yes, there's something to be said for that, but I think in any kind of creativity, it takes on a life of its own.
Absolutely. And it's so important to acknowledge that, I think, because
Yeah.
a lot of people, they begin a project with the passion and the burning urge to create it, and then halfway through that burns out and it kind of fizzles, and then the project turns from something that they once really wanted to do, it turns into a task. And I think I've definitely experienced that with a lot of things that I've done in my life. But if I had have known that it is okay for the project to change its path, then that wouldn't have stressed me out as much as it did. I think that is one of the most valuable pieces of advice. I think I'm also gonna quote you on this for the social media pages, because I think that acknowledging that something can change, but it also is okay for that thing to change, I think that's a very important thing for your well-being, as a person.
I think the important thing here is that the essential energy of creativity is chaos. So it's not going to look beautifully structured and worked out, because then it wouldn't be creative. It would be a replica of something someone else has done. And if it's going to be entirely your own, you need to let it take its own course. Let it take you where it needs to go.
Absolutely. I think that is definitely what a lot of people are missing in their lives. I think there are a lot of people that, like I said, they start things and then the passion for that burns out. Do you think that the passion will continue if you allow the project to change? For example, if you're writing a book and you stop halfway and you realize that you actually want to change the subject, or the plot is different, do you think that you can continue to keep that passion burning if you allow it to change its course naturally?
Absolutely. I think your passion would be reignited by following where it's taking you, rather than trying to pursue the piece that's not ready to be written yet.
Absolutely. I think that's so vital. That is all of my questions. Thank you so much for joining me. It's honestly, it feels like I've had a coaching session.
Wonderful. Oh, it's been lovely talking to you, Caitlin. Thank you for inviting me.
I know that you're connected with a lot of my family, Goody, Tim, Gogo, everybody. I know that you know them, they know you. So I'm definitely going to send them the link to this episode. It's going to be available on YouTube and SoundCloud. So once that's all rendered and uploaded, I'll send those links to you if you want.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you.
But thank you so much, Rosemary. I'm gonna
Thank you.
now end the call and then upload this all, and my audience is gonna love this episode because they're very creative people. So I think
Okay.
this is going to be very, very beneficial to them. Do
And
you have
if
anything that you want to say to the audience, or anything that they could take, like a little compounded piece of wisdom that you could share as a final note?
so my words to you are, whatever you're doing, go for it with everything you've got, and don't be afraid if you make a mistake. It's all part of the learning. It's just the most exciting thing to be able to let your own personal creativity come to the fore.
Absolutely.
And may I leave my contact details?
Of course, yeah, go ahead. We're still recording, so just speak them out.
Okay.
I'll put it in the description as well.
So I can be contacted at thinkbig@mweb.co.za anytime. Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you so much, Rosemary. Have a lovely day, and I will send you the link to our content when it is up online.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.